South Africa needs to be careful when protecting local businesses against imported goods when it comes to imposing import tariffs. This is on the back of the recent completion of the Agoa agreement. This deal has elicited debate on the balance of scales relating to pricing of locally produced meat versus imported poultry and beef products. Agoa is a unilateral program providing for the duty-free access of thousands of products from designated African countries into the U.S. market. The most recent renewal of Agoa extended the program for a further 10 years. Agoa expands the duty-free benefits previously available only under the U.S. Generalised System of Preferences program. This for qualifying African countries, ensuring duty-free access to the U.S. market for approximately 7,000 product tariff lines. But how much are we importing and exporting agricultural products? I spoke to Bonani Nyhodo, manager of trade research at the National Agricultural Marketing Council. Let's talk about how the current scenario is unfolding regarding the importation of meat products, especially from foreign countries. How much are we importing and are we producing enough to be able to sustain ourselves?
If you look at the movement of food across borders, it's firstly informed by what you are producing in a country, and you look at the consumption in terms of the amount of what you produce, which you consume, and you subtract the exports. So in the case of meat, especially red meat, is that most of what we produce gets consumed inside. And as a result, in most instances, we have to import live animals from our neighboring countries. But if you look at white meat, which is poultry and the pork, is that we are importing a reasonable amount of that meat. And for poultry, you would have heard in the last month or so the talk we have had around BRICS, I beg your pardon, around Agoa. The issue was with Agoa is that a reasonable amount of meat that is imported frozen is cuts that come from America, which are mostly the brown parts. So when you talk of white meat, most or a reasonable amount of what is consumed is imported.
How do we balance the exportation and importation of meat?
As I've said, it is not out of the bad will of those importing. Those importing would be having contracts with big retailers in South Africa that they need to supply certain volumes of meat. And what gets to move on the shelves then determines the amount that has to be imported. Then in certain instances, you would find, as we have had, as a way of resolving the Agoa, is that there was, I'm sure I should give a short brief of this, is that there was an anti-dumping duty that was put for the importation of this white meat from America, poultry. Then when we're talking of this Agoa, then the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, together with the DTI, then came with this anti-dumping quota free, which means a certain amount of poultry meat that would have attracted the anti-dumping duty gets into South Africa now duty-free. And the reason is very simple. The demand for this meat is far above the domestic production capacity.
Now then, that would affect the pricing, but then let's look at the tariffs imposed. What are the policies saying?
The issue of tariffs, as we look at it, is that tariffs are levied on a number of imported products for basically a number of reasons. One of those is that you would levy a tariff if you have an industry that is still small, which you would want to protect for it to develop. That's the infant industry argument. Then if you have an established industry, that may be struggling because of a number of factors, then you will be putting them. But in the context of South Africa, the tariffs we have, which gets revised depending on what industries are saying to ITEC, is that you would find that a tariff reduction or increase is being requested because of industry-specific issues. Then government applies its mind and determine whether it is justifiable or not.
If it's justifiable or not, given that the prices are going high and consumers are already complaining that the beef and all their sources of proteins are having prices that are skyrocketing at the moment, is there a way in which government is going to put their foot on the brakes to intervene in this trajectory of the meat prices going up?
Let's look at a scenario here. It's very good to look at our trade policy in context of what is happening inside. You wouldn't want to lose the sight of the ball in arguing or wanting to produce to protect consumers at the expenses of your producers. Then I'm sure you would have heard around 2007-8, when the prices of everything were moving high, a number of countries banned exports of wheat. Then if you have a product that you would have allowed, or an industry that you would have allowed to die because you are wanting to keep your prices low, you are importing everything with no tariff, you are killing the domestic industry, then what would happen is that the country becomes very vulnerable to policy changes of other nations. Then let's say in this instance, you say because of the price increases on meat, you would want to remove the tariff on meat and meat products. What are you doing is that you are rendering the domestic sector to suffer. And when it's completely killed and one day the countries from whom you are importing these products ban exports of these products, where are you going to source the products for your domestic consumption? So we need to play a very balanced act on this issue.
That's the research manager at the Agricultural Marketing Council speaking to us earlier right here on News Today.